friends, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing really well. So we haven't done a recent reads in a little while. If you've been around here a while, you know I've stopped kind of doing like TBRs and wrap-ups and stuff based on a particular month. I just kind of, you know, talk about my reads whenever I have a whole bunch of them to talk about. So I think the last one we did was back in April sometime. And as you guys know, my reading has really slowed down over the past couple of years. I'm not reading nearly as much as I used to. However, my reading has picked up lately, like nowhere near the degree that it was, but I've been really happy with the books that I've read recently. So I'm super excited for this discussion, and going into the summer, like I want to do some piles of possibilities and stuff for some summertime reads as well. So keep an eye out for that video coming up. So first and foremost, a little bit of story time with these books. So I am rereading the Last Apprentice series by Joseph Delaney. The last time I left off this series, I was on book 8, and it had gone like a year or so had gone by since I had picked one up, or maybe, you know, 8 or 9 months at least. And I actually found them on Everand as well, on audiobook. I do have the physical copies as well because it is one of my favorite series. So I do have it in like physical copies. But I found it on Everand, and I thought it would be kind of cool if Matthew would read these along with me. I thought he would really enjoy them. You know, they're a middle grade sort of fantasy series with witches and ghosts and all kinds of things and adventure and everything, and it just has those cozy feels that I absolutely love. So I asked him if he wanted to read along with me on audio, and he said yes, and it's been really great to share my love of reading with him. Matthew's not a reader at all, but we like to put a chapter or two on before bed, or like if we're just chilling on the couch or building Lego or something like that. So we've started reading this series. Like, this is my third time reading these ones now. I read them for the first time years and years ago, probably back in like 2012 or so. And so I've been really enjoying reading these with him. So we're done the first 2 books. So Revenge of the Witch and Curse of the Bane, and you know, they're not super short by any means. You know, they're fairly chunky, especially for someone who doesn't read regularly. Yeah, and he's been really enjoying them. So we're working on book 3 together now, Night of the Soul Stealer, and it's been, like I said, it's been quite some time since I read these, so you know, I'm picking up on some new things and things that I'd forgotten. So that's been really great. It's made me super happy that he's experiencing these with me. I think, like, I know they tried to make a movie out of like the first book or the first couple of books, and it was a complete flop. I don't think the proper people picked it up, but I would love to see a movie series based on these books. But I don't think we're gonna get that again. So I really wanted him to experience these stories, and we're both really enjoying reading these together. And I also did want to mention, I do have a partnership with Everand. It's an ebook and audiobook service. I use them, I've been using them for years, but they're really great, and they're awesome people too. So I have a link down below for you to try it out. So if you wanted to do that, it also benefits me and my channel as well with a very small commission. So if you wanted to try out Everand for yourself, and maybe even pick up the Last Apprentice series, that would be great. So if you like sort of, you know, fantasy, medieval, not really medieval, what would this be? Like probably 18th, 19th century, and you know, witches and ghosts and boggarts and adventure and all of that kind of thing, I would highly recommend this series. The whole series is kind of like a 4-star read for me. And then, so I finally finished Against the Darkness by Kendara Blake. So you guys know I've been reading this series over the past couple of years. It's a trilogy based on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe, and it follows Willow's daughter, who becomes the first witch slayer, and or slayer witch, because of course Willow's a witch and she gets called to be a slayer. So the first 2 books I gobbled up, and just with my very elongated book slump, or reading slump, I've picked up and put this book down numerous times, and it's not because I wasn't enjoying it, it's because like my brain was just not in the reading mood, and I wanted to pick this up when I knew I would enjoy it. So I finally finished this one. It was fantastic, and the whole series ended up being a 5-star read for me. I almost wish that there's going to be more books. There hasn't been anything announced or anything like that, but I would love to see this series continue. And as an uber Buffy fan myself, I've said, even with the other 2 books that I read, I think this is going to be the closest to a season 8 that we would get, that would be, you know, based on the series, like right after the show ended. Nothing to do with the comics, nothing to do with any other fan fiction or take on the Buffyverse. I think this is fantastic. There are some other Buffy iterations that I've read that I really, really didn't like, and I gobble these books up. If you're a Buffy fan, I would highly recommend reading this series. So the first one is In Every Generation, and like I said, there's 3 books, and all of them were full 5 stars. It was very satisfying. I think I would have changed something in the ending, but it didn't knock down my star rating at all. It was still a full 5 stars, and I'm really hoping either, number one, that this will get adapted into a show or movie, or that she will continue to put out more books in this kind of spin-off. Next up, I read Aliens in the Sky, which is Spooksville book number 4, and I have to say, I think this is my favorite out of the Spooksville series so far. I also read this one on audiobook. The entire series is on Everand as well, and it was really, really great, and it was super cute. And if you haven't read the Spooksville books, you do have to read them in order, because it does kind of follow this centralized group of kids, and they meet people as they're going along, and the story does continue kind of book to book. So you do have to read them in order, so I will say that. But book number 4 has to be my favorite. It was 4-star read. Super, super cute, and I can't believe that I haven't picked up the Spooksville series sooner. Of course, you guys know that Christopher Pike is one of my favorite authors, and but it just kind of escaped me, and it was more leaning towards the sci-fi side rather than pure horror. But there is plenty of horror elements wound into it. You know, a town that's like really spooky, and this new kid comes in and is kind of like discovering what's going on. There's a witch at the center of the story, so very, very super cute. And this one was very much on the sci-fi side of things, but I really enjoyed it. I believe I gave this one 4 stars, and I will definitely continue with the Spooksville series on audiobook. And next up, I read a short story collection. This is Ghostly Tales of Love and Revenge by Daniel Cohen, and really super small read. I couldn't find it on my shelves. I do have it in physical copy, and I read it as one of my reads for Old School April, and it was so super cute. I did include it in a vlog that I did for Old School April. I think I did 2 vlogs, and I was healing from a tattoo, and I just wanted to pick up something that was kind of light. And you know, short stories are always great for when you're not really in kind of a reading mood. And like I said, I've been dealing with this kind of years-long reading slump now, so super, super cute. So it very much is this group of stories that has to do with jilted lovers and that kind of thing. And you know, you have classic stories like a woman gets jilted at the altar and she ends up committing suicide and she comes back as a ghost and stuff like that. That one's not actually in there, but it's those types of stories, and they were really cute. They're really super imaginative, and it was a 4-star read. So if you're out book hunting and you happen to see this one, I would highly recommend it, and the cover is super, super cute as well. And next up, I read The Dead Game by A. Bates as part of the Tales of Point Horror Book Club. I was on with Shelley and Kelsey from Slime and Slashers and Katrina from Katrina Brown. We were discussing this book. It's super cheesy and super, super silly. So obviously part of the Point Horror collection. I haven't read a Point Horror book in quite some time, and this was all the 80s and 90s, like full-on cheese popcorn type read. You know, it was a 3-star read. It wasn't anything spectacular. It wasn't terrible, but it was one of those like it's so bad it's good types of things. So these kids basically have this competition of like how they can humiliate people who've wronged them or people who are bullying them. And by the title, you know, people start actually dying. And, you know, these kids are trying to figure out what's going on. And, you know, centered in the high school and all of that kind of stuff. So it was very much around the, you know, coming into the final months of high school kind of time frame when I was reading this in April. So it really fit into the kind of that time period. It was old school April. It was just perfect. So I will definitely be picking up some more point horror books over the coming months, because, you know, they're just those reads that just bring you so much happiness and so much joy, and you don't have to overthink them. You don't have to think too deeply into them. You can just sit down and enjoy it. You know, it's like those silly comedies. Like Dodgeball is one of my favorites. I don't even like comedy, and I love that movie. So it was very much along the same lines. And we had a great discussion. It was my first Instagram live. Of course, I've done many, many YouTube live videos, and I've been on podcasts and stuff. But this was my first Instagram live, and it was great to be on there with Shelly and Kelsey and Katrina. We had an absolute blast, and I will most definitely be on there with the girls again to discuss more point horror. So like I said, 3-star read for this one, but it was super enjoyable. And next up, I read a nonfiction book. So this is Contagious Enemies, First-Hand Accounts from the Aberdeen Witch Trials by D. Lawler. And I really enjoyed this one, number one, because I have always been interested in the witch hunts and the witch trials and stuff like that. But most of the books that I've read, you know, kind of throughout my teenage years and into my adult years had to do with the Salem witch trials, of course, which what was going on over in England and Scotland were kind of completely different in a way. And this one, like I said, concentrated on the Scottish witch trials specifically. And right around the time that I was reading this was when they put out the memorial tartan for the Scottish women who were accused of being witches. And it's so heartbreaking and it's so shocking. But I enjoyed the way this book was written because it was easily consumable. It wasn't bogged down with a lot of heavy language, and you know, it was academic, but it wasn't pompous or overbearing in any way. It was easily digestible. So I would highly recommend reading this one if you wanted to learn more about the witch trials in Scotland. And of course it talks about, you know, King James and his whole paranoia and stuff like that. It's a 4-star read for me. I will definitely read more by this author. And I believe it was through the host of Airy Edinburgh, the YouTube channel, that I learned about D. Lawler and this book specifically. So I had to get it right away, and it really paid off. I really enjoyed it, and I was happy to pick up a nonfiction. I haven't picked up many nonfictions this year yet, and I definitely learned a lot. So highly recommend this one. And next up, of course, as part of my Haunted Victorian Book Club, I did read The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester Fox. This is another reread for me. So we've had a couple of rereads recently, you know, with the Last Apprentice series, but it's almost like I'm reading it for the first time because it's been quite a few years, and I'm rereading them on audio, which is a new format, and I'm rereading them with my husband as well. So we can talk about it and stuff. So I was wanting to pick up something that was super cozy for the book club. You know, the previous month was a book that I didn't even end up finishing. I DNF'd it very early on. I didn't enjoy it whatsoever. And so I wanted to pick up something that I knew was familiar, that I knew I enjoyed, and I was hoping that others in the book club would enjoy as well. And Hester Fox is one of my favorite authors. Even though some of her books, you know, are not my cup of tea, this one very much is. It's my favorite book by her. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's full 5 stars, and it has all the gothic feels that you're looking for. So this kind of centers around this young woman named Ivy, and it's post-World War I time period. And she ends up inheriting this huge estate. She's not a noble woman herself. She didn't know she had any nobility like in her relatives or anything like that, but she's, you know, the whole trope of the last surviving heir. She has to become this grand lady in this estate and stuff like this. So very much Rebecca type of feels. And the only caveat to her becoming Lady Hayworth is that she has to live in the manor. So she can't just, you know, sign the paperwork and just stay in London. She actually has to go live in the manor. So like I said, very Rebecca feels when she arrives. She doesn't know what she's doing. And the housekeeper is very much like a Mrs. Danvers type of character. The staff is super mysterious and kind of standoffish, and you know, they don't really help her as much as she would like. She doesn't know how the finances work. She doesn't know, you know, kind of what she's supposed to be doing. And so she gets bored very quickly. It's out on the moors. It's very foggy and rainy and all things. So it has very much a lot of that brooding atmosphere that we love in Gothic reads. And Hester Fox really writes the Gothic very well. And so she discovers that the house has this gigantic, like, Beauty and the Beast style library. And as an academic herself, her father was a professor. This is what she latches onto, and this is what she makes her purpose. And she starts a lending program within town, and the housekeeper is very much against it. And she can't figure out why everyone is so against her ideas and what she wants to do. And so there's a lot of friction there. And then Ivy starts basically to lose her mind. She starts becoming very forgetful. She can't remember stories that one of the servants has told her about the lore of the manor and the library and all of that kind of stuff. There's the story of this mad monk, and it has a lot of, when we did the discussion for this one, which I'll link down below to the live discussion that we did for this book, we talked about that this is a Gothic that doesn't only have ghost stories, it's a Gothic with a little bit of meat on its bones, because the occult aspect is very well developed, and it's a lot heavier than what you would experience in a normal Gothic book that just has, you know, a ghost story behind it. This is more than that. So I loved the occult element. I loved the romance aspect, which I'm not typically big on romance, but I thought it was done very, very well here. And you'll see kind of hints of Downton Abbey sort of going on. And like I said, it has very much Rebecca type of feels. It has all of the Gothic misty moors and all of that kind of thing, and a young lady that doesn't know what she's doing. And she has a lot of character development. She's fantastic. And so, like I said, it is my favorite Hester Fox book of all time, and it is one of my favorite books of all time, period. Full 5 stars, and I will definitely reread this one probably several more times. I have it on audiobook, and the narrator is absolutely great. She really is the proper narrator to bring that story to life. So I would recommend getting it on audio, the Audible version. So yeah, I really enjoyed this reread. I'll have the discussion linked down below that I did with my friend Stina, who is Skeleton Key here on YouTube, and Skeleton Key Books over on Instagram as well. So yeah, really enjoyed this. It really kind of reinvigorated that dopamine rush to the front of my head for Gothic reads and to get my reading done in general. So I will definitely be jumping into some more of these types of books in the coming months. And then last but not least, just today I finished In Nightfall by Suzanne Young. This is a YA book, vampire book, that is basically a retelling of the Lost Boys story, which is one of my personal favorite vampire movies and probably one of the best vampire movies of all time. Of course, us as horror lovers, most of us love the Lost Boys, and I really think this book did that story justice. It was fantastic. Matthew and I rewatched the movie kind of when I was sort of around the middle of the book, and it was just, it encapsulated everything. It was fantastic, and it made the story modern. Like, it took it out of the 80s into more of a modern age. And of course, you know, the characters were a little bit different. So this is a son and daughter who their father takes them to their grandmother's house. And there's some strain between the kids and their mother, who their parents had gotten divorced. And of course, they meet the new kids here in this town called Nightfall. And it had all the feels. It had me hooked into the story. It was entertaining. It wasn't like that whiny YA overbearing sort of that stuff that I hate that I get with a lot of modern YA books. It was fantastic. It was very well written. And for anyone who is a fan of vampires, or specifically the Lost Boys, I would definitely highly recommend this one. I don't know why it took me so long to read it, but I wanted to read some vampire books. kind of in the month of May. So I reached out to my friend Amy McCaw, who is another Buffy lover, and she loves vampires. She writes vampires herself in the Mina series, and she does have a new book coming out in a couple of months. And she recommended this one, and I downloaded it right away, and I'm so glad I did. So thank you so much, Amy, for recommending this one, because it just fulfilled all of my vampire hopes and dreams. It ticked all the boxes of everything I was looking for right now. It was fantastic. It was full 5 stars, and like I said, any lover of vampires or the Lost Boys or YA fiction, definitely pick this one up. So there you guys go. That is recent reads over the past couple of months. Like I said, I mean, my reading is nowhere near where it used to be. It's nowhere near where I would like it to be, but it is starting to pick up. And that's all I can hope for, especially with things like, you know, taking a new job over the past couple of years, taking a promotion, getting on committees, doing other things. Then there's some health problems I've been dealing with, which you guys probably know if you follow me over on Instagram. So there's a lot of things, and I'm really happy with the reads that I've had recently over the past few months. You know, the Buffy book, rereading the Last Apprentice series, which I know I love, the Last Heir to Blackwood Library, reading a Lost Boys retelling. You know, it was the quality of the books was there. So I don't even care that I've only read, you know, 9 or 10 books over the past couple of months. The quality of the books has been fantastic. So let me know if you guys have read any of these. If you enjoyed them, if you didn't enjoy them. Also, let me know if you enjoyed the video. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a question or a comment down below, because you know I love chatting with you guys. But until next time, stay spooky, everybody. Bye.